Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Dyer, and I am with New International. I'm a media missionary with New International. I'm excited about today's episode. We have with us Devin Hubbard, who is in Thailand serving with Prosperous Youth Foundation. And it's going to be a good show. I'm excited to hear what he has been doing through this COVID experience and what his ministry has been doing throughout the time being there in Thailand. We are excited to have him. But before we begin, I want to say thank you to the great staff at New International, the missionaries out there, because they have taken upon themselves to make sure that all the missionaries are safe in a safe location that are throughout the world. And if they've needed to get out of the country, they've made plans for that. If they needed to stay in the country, they made sure that they have a safe place to go. So thank you for the team that's been doing that, and that's part of New International. So thank you guys very much. Now, with me, I have Devin Hubbard, who's in Thailand. Devin, dude, how are you, man?
Hey, good. I'm excited for this. I even shaved my quarantine beard, so it's a big deal.
Did it get pretty big?
I try not to let it get too big. I don't want to look, I don't want it to get too scruffy. So, but it was long for me.
Okay, all right. So Prosperous Youth Foundation, all right. What is it? What do you guys do? Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're in Chiang Mai, Thailand. It's a province up north, and we primarily work with private institutional youth and private institutional care. And most of the youth homes that we work with would be Christian youth homes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all the children or youth in that particular home would have a really strong relationship with Christ. And so through we seek to be a bridge for the youth to experience the full life that we believe God has created them for. And so we do that primarily through training, through support and resourcing, and through counsel as well. So and there's a lot of ways that kind of delineates programmatically, but the goal is to connect them with the full life that God has created for them.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So how long have you been there in Thailand serving that way?
So I still feel like a baby a bit. I've been
Okay.
here just a little over 2 years, and
Okay.
still feel like there's so much to learn. And but it's been an incredible 2 years.
That's cool. So we had an awesome media team come visit you guys this past, was it February? And they put
Yeah, it would have been
together
February.
a video that I want to share. So let's go to that video now, and we'll take a look at it, and we can talk a little bit more about Prosperous Youth Foundation when we come back. All right, let's see the video.
Thailand, home to over 69 million people, of which 98% do not claim Jesus as their savior. In northern Thailand, there are many displaced people groups in the rural mountain regions. There is an increasing gap between the safety, education, and income between these rural villages and urban cities. Many rural communities decide to send their children into urban cities, believing that they will have a better life. However, growing up displaced from home can be much more difficult than expected, exposing them to potential risk factors. Most of these children, some true orphans, but most not, move into youth homes. Some are well supported, but many are underfunded, understaffed, and under-resourced. There are currently thousands of children and youth just in Chiang Mai living every day in youth homes. Prosperous Youth Foundation exists to be a bridge, connecting these youth to the abundant life God has intended for them. PYF is not a youth home, but has a relational network of over 60 independent private Christian homes. It is through these relationships that we are able to partner in providing training, support, advocacy, and counsel for these youth. We are seeing these youth growing into the servants, leaders, healers, and change agents God has crafted them to be. They are being given opportunities to encounter God, discover themselves, and be equipped for life now and in the future. We can't help but step back as we see many begin to flourish. Join us in seeing more of these youth experience the abundant life. Learn more at our website.
And we're back. Dude, awesome video. It tells us a lot about Prosperous Youth Foundation. And I want to thank again our media team, Abigail and Carson, for going out there and filming for you guys, helping to tell your story and what you guys have been up to. So how did you get into ministry to begin with? What was your calling like? How long have you been thinking about missions?
Yeah, I mean it's a long story, and we wouldn't have time for all
Sure.
of that. And maybe the Cliff Notes version, but So didn't initially grow up in a Christian home. Mom became a Christian later on, and then I went through like a really deep depression that the
Mm.
Lord rescued me out of, which
Okay.
drew me to Him. And when I decided to give my life to Christ, it was kind of at the same time with this calling to serve youth. But the only example I had was to serve youth in like a white suburban church
Yeah.
context, because that was the only example of like working with youth in ministry that I had ever seen. So I went to college at Bethel, now Bethel University in South Bend, Indiana, and studied youth ministry there. But during my time there, with relationships with professors, things I was reading, some relationships with friends, I encountered the holistic aspect of Jesus's ministry when he talked about the kingdom
I like that holistic. Yeah.
coming and is here. There were specific actions towards the to the marginalized in society,
Hmm.
and that was like evidence that the kingdom had come and was coming. And so that really opened up my eyes to what ministry could be for me in the future. And then also began to the Lord began to develop a heart for the unreached areas of the world, and particularly Asia. And then there's a stat that Youth Hope likes to use talking about, um, see if I get this right, like 90% of the world's youth ministry resources are being used to reach from like 4 to 10% of the
I've heard
world's
the
youth.
same stat. Yeah.
Uh, so that really affected me as well. So I just felt like it just made sense to use my life in a place where was like that extra 96%. So yeah, and then through a lot of other opportunities, started thinking about Asia, praying through Asia, tried to get into Japan and some doors
Hmm.
shut, thought about maybe China, and then met Aaron Arnold, who was with Youth Hope in the past. And he invited me and opened up the opportunity for me to do an internship with Prosperous Youth Foundation here while I
Okay.
was still in college. So this would have been maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, it was during that trip where I experienced both the brokenness here,
Mm.
but at the same time experienced the hope that these youth carry and the potential that they carry, not only for the future but for now. And I felt like there was nothing else I wanted to do more than use my life to like help realize the hope that they have like within them. And
That's
so,
that's awesome.
yeah.
I can definitely tell your heart and your passion behind that and reaching the youth. Uh, you get to work with the youth every day, except for now because it's COVID. Have you been able to reach out and still minister, or is everything kind of just on hold?
Yeah, so it's been a difficult process. I mean, just with any organization or ministry, like having to learn how they should adjust like during this time.
Yeah.
And I think for us, we're just now beginning to realize finding somewhat of a sweet spot for however long this lasts. Thailand is, I think, like they're not even the top 50 countries as far as the number of cases right now
Hmm.
that are reported, but a lot of the like regulations or the lockdown protocols are really similar to other places around the
Sure.
world. And so most youth homes, we work with youth homes. Most of our programs require us to gather groups of people together.
Hmm.
And so that's just not something that we can do right now because most of the homes wouldn't be letting us in
Yeah.
or would be inappropriate for us to like hold a like a
Big
small group,
rally or anything like that. Yeah,
like
it's not going
20
to
people.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it just can't happen. So yeah, so but we have actually found really awesome ways to have a meaningful impact on the students we work with, and maybe I'll talk a little bit more about some of them. But I was reading, I think it was Andy Crouch wrote an article, and one of the things that he said during this time, trust is one of the most important resources that organizations have, especially ministries
Yeah.
during this time. And we have a lot of trust with the homes and students. So it's learning how do we both like utilize the trust that we already have with them, but also how can we maintain and build even more trust? Because the youth are going through and the homes are going through just as much difficulty as anybody else. And so to remind them that we're there for them,
Yes.
I think is really important. So yeah, we found a few ways that we can do that.
Yeah, talking with you earlier, and then I saw on your Facebook page you had some awesome pictures of you guys with packages, giving them away it looked like I'm not sure to who. We're gonna show the pictures full screen, but can you just like kind of go over that, like what you guys were doing and how you guys had the masks on and all that stuff? Just kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. I'll give a shout out to one of our teammates, Hannah. It was her idea to do this, and
Okay.
then we all rallied around that as a team. She helped manage it, but the idea was to provide these care packages to give to students. Primarily, the two groups of students were students that are involved in our leadership development group, which is about high school aged. And then we have another group that acts as a small group that is for students who've graduated out of the youth home called God First. And
Okay.
that is a part of, like in their transition, it's a very risky time of life for them because they leave their network and support that they've known and oftentimes have to figure out life on their own. So we decided to create that group as a way to support them and walk alongside them. And so those are the two main groups. He had about maybe 60 to 70 students that we gave packages to.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was amazing. So we got all those ready for like 2 or 3 days and then sent them out yesterday or 2 days ago and then today. But yeah, so we were like going up and giving these boxes to students, and we were thinking that, they were all going to want us to like set it in front of their door or in front of
Right.
the elevator, their like apartment or at their youth home, those sorts of things. But oftentimes, I mean, they were so excited to get the packages that they like didn't even put a mask on. Like they didn't put a mask on. They're like wanting to hold the box and take a
Right.
picture. And it was just really, really cool to see how something so small that just says, hey, we're here for you. We're thinking about you. You're meaningful to us. And regardless of what this situation may mean for you particularly, know that we haven't forgotten you. And above all, like the Lord hasn't forgotten you. And so that was, yeah, a very small thing that we've been able to do, but one that the conversations that's opened up with students since then over the last few days has been really, really encouraging.
Yeah,
So,
do you mind me asking a little bit about that? I mean, because this, we're all going through this COVID thing, but you guys found a way to still minister to a lot of the people, all right? And so, like you said, they opened up some conversations. Can you give an example of one of those conversations? Was it a spiritual conversation? Was it more of just I'm lonely type of stuff? What kind of conversation were you guys having?
yeah, so different people on our staff are like focused or interacting with like different students, just have more one-on-one intention with them. So other staff might have more stories as well, but the ones that I'm aware of right now, there's a few. The first one that comes to mind isn't necessarily a conversation, but I mean, it's the effect of like trust and showing that like we care about someone and how that impacts somebody down the road. But there's a student who got he's HIV positive and got kicked out of the home that he was in at about when he was about 17 because he wanted to go to a concert. The home didn't want him to go to the concert, and long story short, he ended up like not being in the home anymore and like doesn't want to go back. So he's a 17-year-old that like hasn't graduated high school and is trying to figure out like one, how to pay for medication and how to like how to care for himself and how to be an adult, like all of these things. And so he ended up at a pad Thai restaurant, and we've been meeting with him, have had conversations with him. But anyways, when we went and gave this box to him, within the boxes, there's all sorts of stuff, but there's also like 10-day devotional, and then there was an individual note that we wrote the students, and I wrote the note to this particular guy, and I had one of our staff is the one that gave him the box, but we were talking about it after, and he opened the box, read the note, and he just started crying because it was so meaningful to have somebody just show that like we cared about him when he's sort of in a demographic where like society would be telling a different story to him. And if you don't know Thai culture very well, if you ever see a Thai person cry, it's like really meaningful, especially if it's a Thai male. Like that just doesn't happen a whole lot. And so they are very good at controlling their emotions. So that was really cool. And then there's another one of a guy that's in our God First group who got the box. And then later, like his family invited them into the home, eating mangoes, like talking with them, like, and
Nice.
so it wasn't even just like showing that we cared to the student, but like the family was involved as
Yeah.
well. And he messaged one of us later. We asked, like, hey, were you surprised when you got the box? Like, how did you feel? And he's like, I wasn't surprised, but I have this emotion that, like, I can't explain. Like, it's both like thankfulness and happiness and all of that. But I just want you to know that it meant so much that
That's cool.
you did this for us. So those are just a couple examples. And again, I mean, these students are either in a home or at like by themselves in an apartment building, and they're going through both fear and discouragement, loneliness, boredom,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a small way to do that. But that's just one of the programs or things that we've done during the season.
Well, I think with this COVID going around, I think I hear a lot of the word loneliness comes in play a lot, and anxiety as well. And the fact that you were going out of your way to minister to these guys, it does mean a lot. And on behalf of all the Christians that are watching this and just praying for you guys, thank you for being the hands and feet of Jesus and going out of the way. I'm reminded that Jesus was moved with compassion to minister to the people. And that's what you guys have done. You've been moved with compassion, and you found ways to minister during this. And I just thank you guys so much for doing that. And we really appreciate, Prosperous Youth Foundation. We appreciate you. And again, thank you so much for committing your life to serving Christ. And
of course,
I'm excited to getting to know you in this way and continue to develop our relationship as we serve throughout the years. Has there been a scripture during this time that's really impacted you that you thought, man, I just kind of keep coming back to this at all? Is there anything that sticks out?
Yeah, I wondered if you'd ask this question, and I was thinking about it last night and kind of laughed as the one I thought. So I don't know if it's going to be really encouraging to other people, but it's been really encouraging to me.
Okay.
And it's in Job 13. So I do this liturgy, and this is how I start the liturgy often. And it's, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And often when I would do that throughout the times that I would be doing this liturgy, it always sort of struck me as somewhat like melancholy, and even, didn't necessarily appeal to my desire to like take control of situations. But, I've gone through sickness and fear and anxiety personally, and then feeling the weight of all of that going on around the world. There's something about how this situation has left all of us really vulnerable and out of control. And that idea of like, I came into the world with nothing. And everything that I have is because the Lord has given it. And I will one day leave the world with nothing. Like all of this material, like worldly stuff, will pass away with me. And then I will obviously get to be in the presence of the Lord. But ultimately, the one who gives all of that is the Lord. And the one who takes it all away is the Lord as well. And it's that power and that authority of God that actually gives me a piece of, and my place in that gives me a piece of comfort, which then makes me say, like, blessed be the name of the Lord. So that's just been really, really comforting to me.
Cool. Well, anything else that's kind of stuck out to you about this time that you'd like to share and encourage our missionaries out there on the field, or them back in people back in the States, or whoever's watching this? Anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any like deep words of wisdom or anything to help everyone else like navigate this season. Like I'm just flopping around trying to figure it out as much as anybody else. But there's a poem that I've gone back to and like meditated on multiple times throughout this, and it's Teresa of Avila, who was a Carmelite nun in the 16th century. But she's got a poem, and I'm going to just read a brief like excerpt from it, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks, compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes, you are his body. That's and there's some like theological stuff on like Christ has no body but yours, but the idea of it is that we are the body of Christ, and it's through us that the world can experience his mercy and grace in the midst of this. And I'm just figuring out what that might mean for me, for the organization we work with, and hopefully all of us and I can be thinking about that. So
Well, Devin, thank you so much for your time and for your service. I really appreciate it. Hey, if anyone wants to learn more about you and your ministry, what's the best way to do that? Is it Facebook, email? What's the best way?
So you can reach out. I mean, for me personally, you can reach out to me and on Facebook and ask questions. You can go on to New International's website and
Yeah, I think we have New International
Prosperous Youth
website.
Foundation. And there's information on there. We're currently that one of the goals for this year is to start a website for us.
Okay.
And so that's not quite finished yet, but
Sure.
hopefully before the end of the year that'll be done, and then people can go to that as well.
Okay. Cool. Well, Devin, thank you so much for joining me, and good morning in Thailand. We're about to go to bed here in the States. But
Of course.
thank you so much, and I really appreciate it, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Have a good night.
And if you're still there, I want to say thank you again to Devin, but also Friday we have another interview with a good friend of mine, Heather Burton, and she's going to be with me 10 a.m. Eastern time. And so join me Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and she's going to share about her time in South Africa at, where was it? Cape Town. Yeah, that's right. Cape Town, South Africa. So join me Friday at 10 a.m. and we'll do some more of these missionary interviews. And we're just getting an opportunity to hear what God is doing throughout the world. I'm excited about that. Thank you very much. God bless and have a great day.